Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name's Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe. And big good morning to everyone joining us live right here on Behance. If you are tuning in live, let me know, and especially let me know where you're tuning in from. We've got Anzi and Lena and Samuel, Kyle and Mohammed and Namen and William and Pokehan. Again, I love that name. Carl, Kita, and everyone else joining me. Feel better, yes. I'm feeling quite a bit better today now that I have, my voice is coming back, which is good. I took a lot of NyQuil last night, so I feel great this morning. So, day 2 of the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge is kicking off. Yesterday, we tackled the splash screen and loading experience. And we got Debbie from Vancouver, Washington, not to be mistaken with Vancouver, Canada. Michael from Nevada and Suyag from India. Oh, Jamie from, this is going crazy. Jamie from Santa Cruz, Yu Ting from Norway, Guadalupe from, oh, Guadalupe didn't say. Let me know where you're from. Askar from Harrisburg. I've been there, I think. Yeah, awesome. So, what do we got going on today? Let me hop over to my screen. We're gonna dive into things. And if you're brand new to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, here's how it works, right? You're gonna go to behance.net/daily creative challenge. And right at the top, you're gonna see a little bit of information. You're also gonna see a big blue button. Press that big blue button so you get notified when we unlock new challenges. Every single morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, we unlock the next day's challenge. And then 11:30, right here, same time, same place, every single day except the weekends. I kick things off to give you a little bit of inspiration to, into what you can do with this day's challenge. And then you're gonna share your work on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. That way we can jump in there, we can search for it, and show some of your awesome work off. Then you have until May 27th-ish to complete all 9 challenges. And of course, as I mentioned every single day, it's not a competition. So if you need a few extra days to polish it off, or if you're just busy, you can always come back and revisit this later on. And we are working on a way to serve up archived challenges. So you'll be able to go back and participate and grab the templates and watch the videos of previous challenges. So if you missed a few of them previously, we've done quite a few of these. Eventually, you'll be able to go back and see all that stuff. It'll be pretty cool. There's a little bit of a video. Next steps, grab Adobe XD for free if you haven't done that yet. Yesterday, we released a massive update, including linked assets for design systems, components, artboard guides, the polygon tool, keyboard and gamepad triggers, more text transformations. We released a lot of cool things, and everyone's excited about the archive challenges. Yeah, as you can see, this has been a big request. So the team has been working hard behind the scenes to build out new pages, build out the infrastructure, and make sure that everything's ready to go so you can go back and, just dive into any of those challenges, which is super cool. We're also working on some other cool things. I'll leave it at that. Join our Discord community. Let me hop over to Discord here. Here's Discord. We've got almost 4,000 people in Discord. And Discord's great because there's all these different channels you can have that are, some of them are read only, so we can post information about each day's challenge. We can post pro tips. Tim, one of our awesome moderators, said don't use Papyrus as one of the pro tips. Sometimes you just got to use Papyrus. And then there's introduction section. You can tell us about yourself, what you do for a living. If you're brand new to UI and UX, brand new to XD, throw it in here, let us know who you are. Design feedback, you can post your work in progress there. You can give feedback to others if you're feeling helpful. You can ask questions, give suggestions for challenges, tips and tricks, chat. There's a lot of really cool channels. So jump into Discord and, it's a good time. Andy says dark UI is a priority. Andy. What am I gonna do with you, Andy? And then down here, let me go ahead and actually refresh this page. Down here are our challenges. So yesterday, again, we took part in the splash screen and landing page challenge. And then today, we're gonna be working on the login experience. Now, let me hop over actually, before I hop over to the template, I wanna showcase a few challenges that came in from yesterday. And I was able to go to Behance, search XD Daily Challenge, sort by most recent. This is probably not the most recent as of right now. It's a few hours ago. But here's one from Shao. And this one was put together using this really cool logo an icon at the top. I love that little shine of the glasses. And then it goes to the landing screen or the landing page. One more time. There's a little bit of a shine on that Geek Cinema glasses. Super cool. I thought that was really nice. And then this one we've got Sally. And if any of you are in the chat when I'm showing this off, definitely let us know. I love when designers put these, their mock-ups within actual device frames. It's super cool. The team is looking into ways of doing this directly in Adobe XD, but you can also use the angle plugin directly from XD to kind of do something similar to this. You can also use Photoshop as a smart object. And if I click on this, we can actually see the prototype. I love how the name is blooper and the L is backwards. It's kind of like a blooper itself, which I thought was kind of fun. There's Sally. Hey, welcome. I love the logo. I think it's super cool, super creative. Next, we've got Alan. Alan frequents our Discord channel and our Slack, and I believe he's also once in a while on Behance as well. And he put together this really nice looking prototype. Let me go ahead and play this. Here we go. And the animation at the very beginning I thought was super original because he takes this logo and then the logo kind of rearranges so it says movie. And then this whole like full width section with all the movie posters I thought is super cool. And if you're struggling to find movie posters, first of all, just Google it, you'll find it. But there's also, and I'll show you this probably in a few days, but there's also a plugin called, I think it's called just Generate Movie Posters. And it's super easy to use. But this is super cool. Great job, Alan. Oh, there's more. There's a SignIn button. All right, so that, and he's leaving it right off for today. And then the last one I want to go over, and I'm not sure I should go over this because of Andy's comment, but it's Andy's work. So Andy put together this, and the thing I love about this is that you're gonna see a familiar name, Blockbuster. Someone needs to bring Blockbuster back. It won't do very well, but there's a Blockbuster app, and I thought this was fun, kind of funny. Let's go, Blockbuster. Really nice splash screen using time transitions, and even during the time transition while things are kind of moving, you can still click on buttons and you can, cast it to your TV, and there's Blockbuster. There we go. Super cool. Alrighty, so let me hop over to Adobe XD, and we're gonna tackle today's challenge, which again is to work on the login experience. Now I will point out, excuse me, a few things from this template. I showed you a few of them yesterday where you can add your colors and your character styles directly to your assets panel. You've got some buttons, which will definitely help during the login experience. We have some forms and some photos. We also have a reference file. So every single day after the challenge, I'm gonna be uploading what I've worked on for that day in these 20 minutes or so to Dropbox. So if there's anything in particular that really stuck out to you that you kind of want to use, the buttons or character styles or whatever it might be, you can just jump into Dropbox and download the file, and it'll be there by the end of the day. There's some more information and resources over here. And then we also have a user flow. Now, one thing I want to point out about this is kind of the user flow for multiple days. So yesterday we tackled a splash screen right over here, and today we're kind of going into this one, the login and sign up experience. And then, you can obviously expand on it, but don't get too far because we're going to be really expanding on this challenge over the next 2 weeks. So take it slow, take it one step at a time. Splash screen yesterday, login experience today, and then you can go crazy tomorrow, right? So here we go. So this is what we did yesterday. Let me just kind of recap. So we created this splash screen. We created this logo, which we turned into a component, brand new feature as of yesterday. And then we also did this really interesting animation where we used a mask. If I double click in here, you can see this mask that's masking the little tail of this movie reel, right? And, excuse me, what we did is we used time transitions. So if I hop into prototype mode, you can see we have this handle, and if I click on that, we have a time transition with a delay of 0.6 seconds with AutoAnimate. And if you're brand new to Adobe XD, you don't know what AutoAnimate is, once you select AutoAnimate, XD is going to look at the differences between the wired up artboards, and it's going to animate the changes, whether you moved some text around, whether you messed with your vector paths, your masks, your Boolean objects, that sort of thing. It's gonna animate all of that stuff. So it's really nice for interactions like this. And if I press play, you're gonna see what we've done yesterday. The tail comes out as the loading experience, and then we enlarge that movie reel like crazy, to allow it to fill the screen with white. So one more time. There it goes, and bam. And we've got our loading screen. And this is kind of where our login experience is going to go. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that when we did enlarge that movie reel, made it super huge, we also have, it's taking up a large part of our canvas, right? So in cases like this, which are pretty rare, what I like to do is just duplicate this artboard over here, delete this element. So I'm going to delete this whole mask, and then delete all these other things because I don't need them, right? They're kind of just taking up space. They're getting in my way. My layers panel's crazy. So after this, what I want to do is hop into the prototype mode and then just do one more time transition. It's gonna be a 0-second transition, a simple transition, no animation, no nothing, and it's just going to cut. So basically, immediately after it gets to this screen with this massive movie reel, it's gonna go directly to this screen, which is a lot more easy to handle. So, and you won't notice any difference in the actual animation because it just cuts immediately with no transition. So now that we're at this place, we can actually start. I'm gonna type login, and we can start adding some elements. So on a login screen, every login screen is gonna be different. But this one, we're gonna keep it fairly simple. We're gonna have an email address field, we're gonna have a password field, and then probably a forgot password link, sign up button, and probably a login button, right? And we're gonna make sure to convert some of this stuff into components so we can very easily reuse them, override them, and then put them on various screens if we need to. All right, so I'm gonna grab my rectangle, just draw one out across my artboard just like this. Make sure it's centered in my document. I've got those smart guides helping me out. And if you really want to get crazy with it, you could also have, regular guides. Let me drag these out. You can just drag regular guides out. Let's say I wanted it, 24 pixels from the right or the left, and maybe 24 pixels from the right. There we go. Just to make sure things are okay, looking good. There we go. I'm gonna round out those corners, and I can just very easily use those little handles on the inside just to round out the corners, either a little bit or a lot. I love super rounded corners, so I'm gonna stick with that. And for the fill, I'm gonna keep it, fairly white, maybe a little bit gray, but I've been on this weird colored background, colored shadow kick lately, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna see what that looks like. Obviously, a shadow like this is probably not gonna cut it. It doesn't really work. So I'm gonna add a little bit of like red or pink in here, and then really crank up the blur to somewhere like 15, 16, and maybe move it down just a touch. Now it's probably a little bit too intense, so I'm gonna just drop it a little bit, just so it's a very subtle red shadow. Let me know in the chat what you think about this, because it sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't work. Maybe I'll add a very slight border just to separate it from the background, super slight, super simple. It's not bad. I think it could work with a little bit more finessing, but we're gonna leave it at this for now. And then on the inside of this field, we need a few things. We need an icon to signify email or message or whatever it might be. And then we also need some text. So I'm gonna hop over to Nucleo and just type in email. Let's find a little envelope. This one looks pretty good. It's simple. Drag this over into here. Now I probably don't want it pure black, so I'm gonna just change the border to make it a little bit gray, just like this. Nice and subtle, perfect. And then I'm gonna press T on my keyboard to get to the text tool and just type out the word email. Make it a little bit bigger. And if I wanted to make sure that it's the same color as this gray, I can either, add this gray to my assets panel like this, and then click on it, or I can use my eyedropper tool, shortcut key I, and just sample that color if I really want to get in there, just like that. Maybe I'll write email address, like that. Move this down just a touch so everything lines up really nicely. I'll have it, let's say 16 pixels from the side, I'll do 24 pixels here. Perfect. All right, that's looking not too bad. You know, the border might be a little bit too thick, so maybe I'll drop it down to 1 pixel. That's looking okay. Maybe a little bit smaller. Just drop it down just a touch. Now I'm really getting crazy with it, but you know. Okay, so we've got our first, where did it get the icon? So I'm using an application called Nucleo, and it's a free application. You can purchase their sets of icons, which I haven't done yet, but I do have icons on my computer that I was just able to drag in, so I can use it as an icon manager. There's also various, and maybe Tim will post in the chat, there's various websites and services that have free icons. Noun Project, I think, is one of them. There are a few others. So now that I have I'm gonna hide my guides, Command and Control, semicolon. Now that I have my first field here selected, I'm gonna turn it into a component. And I can do that by selecting all the elements, right-clicking, and then Make Component. And over here, I'm just gonna make sure to name this text field. And now with that done, I can very easily duplicate it down, and this will be password. And then of course, I wanna go back to Nucleo, and let's look for a lock icon. Let's see, we've got a lot of different lock icons here. That one looks interesting. I'll go with that one. Drag that in. Make sure that it's the same size. I'm gonna turn responsive resize off so it doesn't affect those borders and those lines. And then just drop the size down to 1 for that border. Make sure I'm using the same gray. There we go. And delete that. And even though this is a component, you can still add elements to it. You can remove elements. If these icons were also components, which I probably should have done, you can swap components out very easily, but you know, you can definitely do some of that stuff using components. So now that we have email address, we have password, we also need a few buttons. We need a sign up button and we need a sign in button or a login or whatever you want to call it. So I'm actually going to just grab this element in the background, copy it and paste it just so I have the same type of button, same size, same you know, height and that sort of thing. But for these buttons, I don't want the shadow. So I'm gonna turn off the shadow, turn off the border, and I might want for this button to be red that I've used in the background and also the text at the top. And this will be about halfway, maybe a little bit less. And for the text, I will write sign in. We'll make this white and we'll probably go bold a little bit. Maybe a little bit larger too, just like that. Perfect, that looks good. Now I can also make this a component as well. Everything should be components. If you're gonna be reusing objects like buttons and fields and things like that, you definitely wanna turn them into components, not just so you can reuse them throughout your entire document, but you can also update them if you need to. So if your style changes, you can easily do that. So Command or Control K to turn that into a component, call this button. And because we do now have overrides, I can use this exact same component for this button over here. Let me turn on my guide so I can see, and this will be the sign up button. Except in this case, let me make sure this is centered, and this should be centered as well. This will be lowercase. Now in this case, we don't want both of these buttons to look exactly the same because chances are most people are gonna press the sign in button instead of the sign up button. So we want to the sign up button is gonna be sort of a secondary button. So what I can do is select the background. I'm gonna turn off the fill. I'm gonna turn on the border and make the red the border in this case. So I'm gonna apply as border and the text will also be this red. And maybe I want the border a little bit thicker, just like that. That looks pretty good. Perfect. Now we could get, you know, I was gonna get a little bit fancy, but we'll get fancy in a second. I also wanna do, let's say, forgot password. Make this a little bit gray. Forgot password. We're gonna drop this down, let's say to 16. Probably don't want it bold. Maybe medium looks good. And position it just over here. All right. Now, I did see Andy post in Discord this morning that if you want to get fancy, you can have the sign in button kind of behind the password button or the email address button so that when a user starts entering information in there, it actually kind of falls down from the top. So let's go ahead and quickly do that now that we have all these buttons set up. So To start, I'm gonna make sure in my layers panel that these buttons are actually behind our text fields in the layers panel. And the sign in button is gonna be moved up here. I'm just gonna hide it, just like that. And if you really want to get crazy, you can, make it a little bit smaller. Just like that. And it is the master component, so it is kind of affecting this one, but we won't worry about that right now. And maybe at the start, we'll have the sign up button nice and large, right? So this is the initial state, assuming that someone has not signed up. But if they have signed up, this probably doesn't make sense now that I'm talking about it from a UX perspective, but we're gonna go with it. So I'm gonna duplicate this artboard over to the right. And in this case, if someone does press the password field, what's gonna happen is this button's gonna go back to the size it was before. And then that sign up button, or the sign in button, is gonna kind of fly down from the top, just like that. All right, so now we need to wire this thing up, right? So back in prototype mode, assuming someone presses on the password button, it's gonna go to this artboard here. And we're gonna do a tap trigger. We don't wanna do drag, we don't wanna do voice or any of that stuff. We're gonna do tap. And the action is gonna be auto-animate. Again, XD is gonna look at the difference. And yeah, Andy says that was my exact reason for not doing it. Yeah, again, it doesn't make sense from a UX perspective, but sometimes we like to get a bit fancy and get a little bit creative and show off auto-animate, so we're gonna do it. We can do, let's try a snap transition and easing, and we'll do 0.4 seconds. So now let's look at this from the very beginning. Let's play this. There we go. Login buttons. Now, the login buttons kind of just appeared, so we probably don't want that. So we're gonna deal with that in a second. Oh wait, I forgot to click on the button. Here we go. Okay, and then we press password. Aha! And the sign in button kind of comes down, and the sign up button gets a little bit smaller. Again, doesn't make too much sense, but it's there. It's cool. Now what we could do, previously we had this one cut directly to this screen, right? What we could do is actually have some sort of an animation. So what we can do is, instead, this will be, let's say auto animate. We'll do ease in and out, 0.4 seconds. And because these elements over here did not exist on this artboard, we have to add them. So copy, paste. You might want to separate them a little bit, move them down, and then turn down the opacity, right? I don't know what just happened. Actually, I do know what happened. Because the reel did not exist on the first artboard, or the second artboard, everything kind of just got weird. So, but you can kind of see that things happened, not exactly the way we wanted them to happen. But in that case, what you could do is have one more state. Let me move this over. Let me make sure that we're gonna duplicate this over, just like this. We're gonna fix this. And we're going to grab these, stretch them out a little bit, move them down, make sure that sign up button is still hiding, turn down the opacity of all this fun stuff. We've got one more state in here. Make sure this cuts to this screen. Transition, none. And then we can add the auto animate, which should animate nicely. So auto animate, ease in and out, 0.6 seconds. And then I am noticing, I think we have the sign in button is probably the components changed their names, so that you have to go through and change the components' names and everything would animate. I'm gonna fix this before I upload it to Dropbox, but some ideas to get you inspired on today's challenge. Obviously, you're gonna spend a little bit more time than I have in the last 20 minutes to make sure that this is looking really fancy. But that'll do it for me. Stick around in just a few minutes for Terry White's coming up with a Photography Daily Creative Challenge. I'll be back tomorrow morning with Jessica with more XD goodness, and I'll see you all later.